Welcome to today's episode. We are going to take a closer look at the history of the Korekore people, including their dynasties or chiefs. Thank you so much for subscribing and joining me on this journey, revisiting our roots. The Shona people of Zimbabwe are divided into several subgroups, each with its own dialect and cultural practices. The major subgroups include the Zezuru, Karanga, Manyika, Ndau, and Korekore. In this video, the primary focus is the Korekore people. The Korekore identity in modern Zimbabwe. The Korekore people are members of the Shona-speaking cluster of peoples and are situated in the extreme northeast of Zimbabwe. Their language is a dialect of Shona with some slight regional variations. The Korekore are sometimes referred to as the people of the north and are one of the oldest and most original Shona-speaking groups. The Korekore are believed to have remained in the northern regions while other Shona groups migrated southward. Current location. Today, the Korekore are found mainly in the northern Zimbabwe: Mvurwi, Bindura, Darwin, Guruve, Chiweshe, Centenary, Muzarabani, subdialects Gova, Tande, Tavara, Nyongwe, Funde, Shangwe, and parts of Mashonaland West Province. Many Korekore people live in this province, particularly in the districts of Kariba, Makonde, and Zvimba, with origins stemming from the breakup of the Karanga State centered around Great Zimbabwe, migrating northwards in the 15th century. They are known for their traditional healing practices, farming, and are divided into subgroups like Tavara and Bujga. The Korekore are believed to have emerged from the disintegration of the Karanga State, which was based around the Great Zimbabwe ruins. During the 15th century, many groups, including those who would become the Korekore, migrated northwards. Some Korekore chiefdoms, particularly those in the east, were incorporated into the Mitupo state at various times in history. By the time of colonial settlement in the late 19th century, the Korekore comprised numerous small independent chiefdoms. Why do the Korekore speak a distinct dialect? The Korekore dialect, Korekore, is one of the most conservative and original forms of the Shona language. They speak a distinct dialect primarily due to historical, geographical, and sociocultural factors. Geographical isolation. The Korekore lived in northern Zimbabwe and parts of Mozambique, a region that has historically been somewhat isolated from other Shona-speaking groups, like the Zezuru, Karanga, and Manyika. This isolation allowed their dialect to develop unique phonetic, lexical, and grammatical features. Their limited contact with colonial towns and missionary schools in the early colonial period preserved their linguistic patterns. Early Shona migration base. Korekore lands were among the first settled by Shona ancestors after the Bantu migration. Their dialect preserves older phonetic structures and vocabulary, which may have changed in other groups due to external influences, e.g. Nguni Wars, missionary English, Portuguese contact. Linguistic purity. Compared to Zezuru or Karanga, Korekore has less influence from Ndebele or English. They retain unique intonation, idioms, and expressions, especially in ritual and poetic language. Oral tradition and local identity. Like many African dialects, Korekore has been preserved through oral tradition, and its distinctiveness is tied to local identity, rituals, and customs that differ from other Shona groups. Korekore communities relied more on oral storytelling and praise poetry than written tradition, helping preserve old linguistic forms. Historical migration and settlement patterns. The Shona people spread across Zimbabwe in different waves, with the Korekore being among the earliest settlers in the north. Over time, their language evolved separately from other Shona dialects due to limited interaction. Influence from neighboring languages. The Korekore dialect has absorbed elements from neighboring languages, such as Tonga and Swana, as well as some borrowings from Portuguese in Mozambique, contributing to its distinctiveness. Cultural and political autonomy. The Korekore maintained a degree of autonomy under traditional leaders, chiefs, and spirit mediums, which reinforced linguistic preservation and divergence from central Shona dialects. While Korekore is mutually intelligible with other Shona dialects to some extent, its unique features, such as specific vocabulary, tonal patterns, and pronunciation, mark it as a distinct variant. Linguists classify it as part of the Shona dialect continuum, but recognize its individuality shaped by centuries of separation and cultural evolution. Cultural practices and spiritual beliefs. The Korekore have a rich spiritual system centered on ancestral spirits, Vadzimu, and Mondoro, lion spirits. Traditional music includes mbira, drums, and dance, especially during bira ceremonies. Spirit mediums often act as intermediaries between chiefs and ancestors, playing roles in governance, agriculture, and conflict resolution. They have a rich cultural heritage with a strong emphasis on traditional music, dance, and storytelling. Most of them are farmers, raising cattle, millet, maize, pumpkins, and yams. Korekore people origins and early history. Migration from the Great Lakes. The Shona people are descendants of Bantu groups that migrated from the Great Lakes region, modern-day Uganda, Tanzania, and Kenya, into southern Africa. This migration occurred over thousands of years, with Bantu groups settling in various parts of southern Africa, including present-day Zimbabwe. The Shona people are believed to have arrived in the Zimbabwean plateau by the early centuries of the first millennium CE. The Korekore originated from the northern part of Zimbabwe, particularly from the regions around the Zambezi Valley and the Sanyati River. They are believed to have migrated to this area from the north, possibly from the region around the Congo River many centuries ago. The origin of the name Korekore and what it means. Meaning of Korekore. The exact etymology of the word Korekore isn't definitively agreed upon, but there are a few theories and interpretations. Linguistic interpretation, linguistic meaning, those who refuse or the stubborn ones. The name Korekore is believed to derive from the Shona verb kuramba, meaning to refuse, reject, or to be stubborn. Some oral traditions suggest that the Korekore were given this name because they resisted assimilation into other Shona groups, like the Zezuru or Manyika, and maintained their distinct dialect and customs. Another interpretation is that they were seen as independent-minded, refusing centralized authority in pre-colonial times. Cultural relational meaning. In some oral traditions, the name might have been assigned or adopted to distinguish this subgroup from others within the Shona based on geography, dialect, or clan structure. Among some other Shona groups, Korekore has historically carried connotations of being from the remote or northern regions, sometimes perceived as more traditional or less influenced by external forces like colonization or missionary education. Some historians link the name to their migration patterns. Korekore may come from Kurekure, meaning far away in Shona, referring to their distant settlement from other Shona groups. Colonial influence. During the colonial period, administrators often grouped people based on geographic or linguistic traits, sometimes simplifying or even inventing group names. Korekore might have been formalized as an identifier during such classifications. Identity and pride. Despite any outsider origins of the name, Korekore people today embrace it with pride, and it carries cultural and regional significance. They have a rich heritage of music, oral storytelling, spiritual traditions, and strong clan systems. What is the relationship of the Korekore with Great Zimbabwe? Although the Korekore were not the direct builders of Great Zimbabwe, they are closely connected through shared Shona ancestry. Great Zimbabwe, located in the southeastern part of the country, Masvingo area, was the center of a powerful state that flourished from the 11th to the 15th century, controlling trade routes and gold production. As the Great Zimbabwe civilization declined, its influence and population dispersed in different directions. Many northern Shona groups, including the ancestors of the Korekore, were likely influenced by this migration and inherited parts of its culture, statecraft, and sacred traditions. Korekore clan's relationship with the Mutapa Empire. Relationship with the Korekore. The Korekore people were integral to the formation and expansion of the Mutapa Empire, original core of the empire. The Korekore are descendants of the earliest Shona-speaking people in the northern plateau, which is the same region where Mutota settled. The Mutapa royal lineage itself is considered to be Korekore or heavily intertwined with Korekore lineages. Political and cultural integration. Korekore clans formed the administrative and military backbone of the Mutapa state. Many of the local chiefs in the empire's heartland were Korekore speaking, and they owed allegiance to the Mutapa king, Mambo. The Mhondoro spiritual system also aligned with Korekore religious structures, reinforcing political loyalty through shared ancestral beliefs. Influence on Mutapa succession. Some Korekore clans provided wives, warriors, and advisors to the Mutapa court. There are oral histories that link the Korekore directly to key figures in succession disputes and royal coups during the empire's decline. What is the connection between the Korekore and the Rozvi Empire? The Rozvi Empire rose after the fall of Great Zimbabwe and became the dominant force in the region from the late 1600s to the 1800s. The Rozvi, led by Changamire Dombo, established a powerful kingdom based on military conquest and spiritual authority. The Korekore were sometimes autonomous vassals or allies of the Rozvi. Some Korekore chieftaincies recognized the spiritual and political authority of the Rozvi rulers. At times, there was tension or resistance, especially in more remote areas of the Korekore north, where Rozvi influence was weaker. Rozvi state-building techniques, stone architecture, and military structure influenced the Korekore's own systems of governance. During the decline of the Rozvi Empire, 17th to 19th century, some breakaway groups moved northward, forming the Korekore identity. Who were the notable Korekore chiefs and kings? The Korekore people, being one of the oldest and northernmost Shona groups, have a long and rich history of traditional leadership. Their territory was historically ruled by powerful chiefs and kings, many of whom played significant roles before and during colonial incursions. Here are some notable Korekore chiefs and kings. Chief Chiweshe. Region: Chiweshe Communal Lands, Mashona Land Central. Significance: one of the most well-known Korekore chiefs. The Chiweshe chieftaincy is deeply rooted in Korekore oral traditions. He was respected for his wisdom and governance, and the Chiweshe lineage continues to hold cultural and ceremonial influence today. Chief Chipuriro Guruve. One of the oldest and most respected Korekore dynasties whose lineage controlled large swathes of territory. The town of Guruve was once known as Sipolilo, a name believed to be a colonial alteration of Chipuriro. The Chipuriro chieftaincy traces back centuries and has spiritual and cultural significance, linked to Mhondoro spirits, which play a role in traditional leadership and rainmaking ceremonies. Chief Negomo. Region: Mbira and surrounding northern areas. Importance: one of the most respected Korekore chiefs, with a spiritual role in rainmaking and other religious functions tied to the Negomo rainmaking spirit, which is still recognized in national ceremonies. Negomo is also associated with one of the Zvimurenga shrines, where ancestral spirits are honored. Chief Kazangarare. Territory: Mashonaland West Province, specifically in the Hurongwe district. Legacy: Chief Kazangarare is highly respected for his leadership, traditional authority, and the preservation of Korekore customs in his area. The Kazangarare chieftaincy is one of the most enduring traditional structures in that region. The Korekore leadership system was built around chieftaincies with spiritual and political authority, not just military power. Many chiefs were also spirit mediums or custodians of Mondoro spirits, ancestors who guide and protect their people. Summary conclusion. Though colonial and post-colonial policies shifted power dynamics in Zimbabwe, Korekore chieftaincies remain active, and their role in cultural preservation and traditional governance is still important, especially in rural areas. Northern Shona group with deep ancestral roots and strong oral traditions. Connection to Great Zimbabwe, inherited cultural traditions from the dispersal after Great Zimbabwe's decline. Rozvi relations, sometimes allied, sometimes autonomous, influenced by Rozvi systems. Spirituality, strong belief in Vadzimu and Mhondoro, central to governance and legacy. A proud, resilient people preserving cultural identity in the modern era, and their cultural project just proves that. The Korekore Cultural Project is an exciting, community-centered initiative aimed at preserving and revitalizing the cultural heritage, language, and socio-economic well-being of the Korekore people. At its core, the project seeks to address the erosion of indigenous knowledge systems, promote cultural pride, and support sustainable development through education, arts, and local enterprise. In recent decades, modernization and globalization have posed a threat to traditional ways of life. Languages, customs, and rituals that once thrived are now at risk of being forgotten. The Korekore project responds to this challenge by documenting oral histories, encouraging intergenerational dialogue, and integrating cultural education into schools and community programs. Background and objectives. The Korekore Cultural Project was established to document and preserve Korekore cultural practices. The project aims to document and preserve the unique cultural practices, traditions, and customs of the Korekore people. Promote cultural exchange and education. The project seeks to promote cultural exchange and education among the Korekore people, as well as with other communities and cultures. Support community development. The project aims to support community development and empowerment through cultural preservation and promotion. Relevance and impact. The Korekore Cultural Project is relevant and impactful for several reasons. Cultural preservation. The project helps to preserve the Korekore people's cultural heritage, which is an important part of their identity and history. Community empowerment. The project empowers the Korekore community to take ownership of their cultural heritage and promotes community development. Cultural exchange and education. The project facilitates cultural exchange and education, which can help to break down cultural barriers and promote understanding and appreciation of different cultures. Activities and initiatives. The Korekore Cultural Project engages in various activities and initiatives, including cultural documentation. The project documents Korekore cultural practices, traditions, and customs through research, interviews, and video recordings. Cultural festivals and events. The project organizes cultural festivals and events to promote Korekore culture and bring the community together. Education and training. The project provides education and training on Korekore culture, history, and traditions to community members, students, and researchers. The Korekore Cultural Project is a vital initiative that preserves and promotes the rich cultural heritage of the Korekore people. Its relevance today is profound as conversations around identity, decolonization, and cultural preservation gain momentum globally. Projects like Korekore offer a grounded, grassroots example of how communities can reclaim their narratives. Moreover, by blending cultural heritage with economic empowerment through local crafts, agriculture, and tourism, the project not only honors the past, but also builds a more resilient and self-sufficient future. Ultimately, the Korekore project stands as a model for cultural sustainability, reminding us that development does not have to come at the cost of identity. For this episode, we end here. Let's meet once again to explore the history of the Ndau clan. Don't forget to hit the notification button, like, share, and most importantly, leave a comment.